Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inside ODOT podcast. My name is Matt Noble, and I am the third and final rotating host for the Inside ODOT podcast, joining Sarah Kelber and Liz McIntyre. If you are a returning listener, thank you for coming back. And if you are brand new to the podcast, thank you for checking us out. In this month's episode, we have two interviews for you. The first is about Oregon Highway 242, aka McKenzie Pass, and what it takes to reopen the road after its long winter closure. And the second interview is about the launch of the new employee resource groups. They're pretty exciting. Stick around, check it out. And as always, after the interviews, I will have a brief rundown of upcoming events that you can look forward to and hopefully attend. But that's about it for the top of the show, so let's get started. The first interview you will hear this month is about Oregon Highway 242, aka McKenzie Pass. Every spring and early summer, the agency works to reopen Highway 242 after its long winter closure. It's a whole process, as you can imagine, because there is a ton of snow up on the pass to remove every year, and it is an interesting and delicate operation at times. So to give you a better sense of what that takes, I spoke to two separate people about that process. The first person is Kacey Davey. She is our Public Information Officer for Region 4. Kacey gave me some great background on the road and why it is closed in the winter. The second voice you'll hear is from Stacey Robinson, who's the maintenance coordinator based in Sisters. But let's get into the interview with Kacey and then Stacey. My name is Matt Noble, and I am here today with our Region 4 Public Information Officer, Kacey Davey.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kacey. Thanks for joining us. And thank you for joining us to talk about a bit of a niche subject, I would say, and that is Oregon Highway 242. So please give me a little history and background of where it is and why it's important.
Highway 242, or McKenzie Pass, is a scenic route that goes between Blue River or the Eugene area and Sisters. And originally, it was built as a wagon toll road back in the 1870s. So it has a really long history. But being that old, it's very windy and very narrow. It's very pretty, but it's not really practical for normal freight and all the traffic that we see today. So we have Santiam Pass, which is the main route between the mountains, and this one remains as a seasonal scenic highway.
So when you say seasonal, does that mean it's closed at certain times of year, like during the winter, or?
Yeah, that's right. Because it's scenic and we have another better route over the mountains, we don't really have the ability or the funding to maintain this highway year-round. So every year when the snow starts to fly over here, usually around November, we close 242. So we have gates that we close, we put up signs and everything. And the earliest opening date is the third Monday in June, because there's a lot of work that goes into that highway before we can open it up.
Thank you, Kacey, for that setup. And like I said at the top, the next voice we'll hear is from Stacey Robinson, the coordinator out of Sisters, about reopening 242.
My name is Stacey Robinson. I'm the coordinator here in Sisters.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you for being here on the podcast. Could you give listeners more details about the ins and outs of blowing snow up on 242 and kind of what that entails?
So generally every time comes around April, first part of May, we start going ahead and blowing out 242 so that we can get traffic through. We generally open up the gate the Monday after Father's Day weekend. So this year we don't have as much snow as what we had in previous years, but it generally takes about a week and a half, and we use 2 snow blowers up there to be able to get through the pass. And then we intercept with McKenzie Bridge on the other side. But especially with this year, we also had a lot of trees that came down. So after we get done blowing, there's going to be a couple days of just tree removal and getting the debris off the road.
Are there any specific trouble spots that you guys have, or maybe areas of the road that have deeper snow than others that take a bit more time or a more deft touch to clear?
We have an area that we call the cut. It's a pretty narrow cut, but it usually averages anywhere between 20 to 35 feet that collects in that area. So that area especially takes a long time to be able to blow through. We have the front blower that's mounted to a loader, and we call it the Pioneer. It'll go through and it'll take it in lifts, and it'll go ahead and make a good path so that the LaRue or Schmidt, whatever type of blower that you have behind that, can go ahead and make it a little bit wider. So it takes a while. That cut up there that we just left today, it might take all day into Monday before we can get through it.
So you mentioned a piece of equipment, the Pioneer, and you said it takes out the snow in lifts. Does that mean it starts near the top of the drift and then blows out the snow in layers moving down? Is that how it works?
Yep, goes in layers, yes. So if you have rocks that's in between those layers or trees, you have to stop, dig them out, try to hook onto them with a chain and pull them, or get a chainsaw and cut them out, because we don't want that to go inside of one of those blowers because it could do a lot of damage.
How would you describe working to clear the snow from 242 each year? Is it a calming process? Is it exciting? Is it just another day in the job for you and the crew up there?
I think everybody that works in the Sisters area and some of the guys that come over from Bend that's helped us, it's just a neat area because it's not traveled very much and it's quiet. You know, we're up there, we might get a few bicyclists or people that are hiking, but generally we don't have to worry about traffic. There's no radio contact, there's no cell service, so it's really quiet and it's peaceful, even though those machines are loud, but I think everybody really enjoys the week or two that we spend up here.
I gotta say, hearing you describe it, that does sound quite peaceful, being up there clearing the road each spring and early summer. So final question for you, Stacey. Now that the road is plowed and open, because we're recording this in mid-June 2023, do you have any advice for people who are traveling on 242 this summer, from hikers to cyclists to people just driving along enjoying the view? Any advice for those travelers this year?
I think that people that travel this road, even once it's open, need to take in mind that it's not a priority road. So it's very narrow. It has a lot of damage, even though it's expected to get an overlay within the next 2 years. But you need to be careful when you're traveling through there, because we do have bicyclists on there. We do have people that are walking on the highway. There's a length limit on this road. However, we still do get people that are taking RVs up there, and there's not enough room. You get in the cut especially, you're going to have to go over the yellow line. And so you need to travel slow, be careful. The edges are soft this time of year. There's some pretty good drop-offs, and again, we have trees that from the fire that happened here a few years ago, when the wind gets to blowing, they start dropping in places that people don't anticipate to see a tree across the road. So those are things, again, by traveling slow and keeping your eye on the road, even though that the scenery is really pretty, got to pay attention.
Thank you to both Kacey and Stacey for giving us that inside look about what it takes to reopen 242 each year. Like a lot of work at the agency, it's not straightforward, but just really happy that we have very skilled people to get it done every year and make it safe for the traveling public. Our second interview for the podcast is with Erika McCalpine, who is our Assistant Director for Equity and Civil Rights. Erika talked to Sarah Kelber, one of the other hosts of this podcast, about the launch of employee resource groups. It's a great conversation, and you'll hear it next.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Today, I'm here with Assistant Director for Equity and Civil Rights, Erika McCalpine. We're going to talk about the launch of employee resource groups here at ODOT. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
So to kick off our conversation, can you tell me a little bit about what an employee resource group, or ERG, is?
Absolutely. First, thank you for having me and allowing me the opportunity to talk about employee resource groups on the podcast. It helps us to get the word out to employees that these groups are coming, and it helps any potential leaders of these groups get their thoughts together on what they would like to see in an employee resource group. So thank you. How an employee resource group is defined at ODOT is that they are officially chartered committees, they are voluntary, and they are employee-driven groups that are organized around a shared identity. There will be 11 groups to start, and they are meant to be inclusive. They are a place for building community based on shared identity, and everyone is welcome to join an ERG as an ally or an advocate. And I would just like to point out that ERGs are not social clubs. These are work-related groups that will have work plans and specific goals to accomplish during the course of the year. So there are benefits to having ERGs. The benefits are to recruitment and retention, leadership and talent development, as well as community engagement. We recognize that they are officially chartered work groups, and DHS has ERGs established within their organization, and they are in alignment with their equity and inclusion goals, and they are essential in building a culture of belonging.
What are the types of activities that employees will be able to do when they join an ERG?
So some of these activities that will help us achieve our agency goals while also being focused in the key drivers of experiencing a sense of belonging, connection, acceptance, voice, respect, and value. Things that promote that connection and agency community engagement, like career fairs, community events, cultural or heritage celebrations, and other networking events. Meeting as a group where people can feel acceptance because of shared cultural identity and lived experiences. Another aspect of ERGs is employee development. We can connect ERG members with our ODOT coaching program, or they may also be a coach and can use that skill to support others. Members might take a training or participate in a webinar to advance their skills or knowledge in an area that benefits their growth and that benefits ODOT. Employees can participate in other regular work events like conferences, seminars, or speaker presentations, and offer those opportunities to the members of their ERG to increase ODOT representation and the knowledge that's shared can be brought back to the agency in a larger capacity.
So why are we creating ERGs here at ODOT?
We are creating ERGs at ODOT because they align with many of our strategies. First, implementing ERGs is a goal in our strategic action plan. We want to provide employees a space for inclusion and belonging to thrive, where they have opportunities for self-development and engagement with community. Having them also aligns with the statewide DEI action plan as it calls for agencies to form ERGs. Leader competencies are also developed as a part of ERGs. They support employees in participating in intentional engagement, communication, and development activities that spark innovation, enhance stewardship, and increase business acumen. Growing leaders within the agency makes sense for our organizational health. ERGs also help grow belonging, which was benchmarked in our employee engagement survey last year. We learned that we have some growth to do in that area. We want our employees to know we care about them, what they shared, and that we are taking actions that will help us enhance their belonging experience at ODOT.
On that topic of belonging, can we talk a little bit more about what that means and how it's important to workplace culture?
Absolutely. Belonging has 5 main categories, but it's important to know that the things that make each person feel a sense of belonging can be different. Where we grew up and our life experiences shape what makes us feel like we belong. So our identities play a huge role in belonging. Having a space for connection with people who have shared life experience and cultural norms is one way we can support people in experiencing those 5 main categories that drive a sense of belonging. It can mean a whole lot, but research shows when belonging culture exists, these things happen: employee happiness and satisfaction, higher employee retention, higher engagement, higher work performance, and better business results. We've also learned that studies from Qualtrics, Gallup, and McKenzie show that when belonging doesn't exist, those things all tank. But besides the data, we spend most of our waking hours together. We want that to be a good experience, not a miserable one.
I know in the employee engagement survey, we also asked about ERGs and what categories people were interested in being a part of. What was that level of interest like, and what did we hear from staff?
Excellent question. We heard from more than 1,500 survey responses saying that they were interested in participating in an ERG and weighed in on what identity categories were meaningful to them. That helped us guide our list of categories, which includes Asian, ability, Black or African American, Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, Hispanic, Latina or Latino or Latinx, members of the LGBTQ2SIA plus community, mental health and wellness, Alaskan Native or Native American groups, two or more races, veterans, and women.
What is the timeline on launching ERGs, and what does that process look like?
ERGs are launching this summer. We have already begun calendaring meetings for ODOT managers to learn about the policy and have a Q&A session. Employees will have sessions focused on the policy, and meetings will be held for each category we talked about so they can learn how to start or join an ERG.
What's the time commitment for participating?
It really depends. Most often, it will be an hour a month for regularly scheduled meetings. We have an ERG policy that will allow for paid time of up to 8 hours per month per member and up to 16 hours per month for leadership roles like the chair of the group. This is congruent with other agency ERGs. When longer times are used, it is because they are doing something to support the agency, like a career fair, sitting on a panel interview, or for chair planning, tracking, and reporting out the activities that ERG members participate in.
For a manager who might look at the time allowance for ERGs in under-resourced times, how do you help them understand the benefits?
What managers need to understand is that ERGs will help them. ERGs improve communication and equitable decision making. They promote retention. They build on that sense of belonging, which feeds job satisfaction. Employees who are more satisfied with their jobs and feel connected to their organization are less likely to leave and more productive. This means less time invested in all the work it takes when we have a revolving door of employees coming and going. Replacing departing employees takes time and effort. The time of recruiting, hiring, onboarding, and training is a long and expensive process. Studies show the average employer invests $4,000 in 42 days in hiring a new worker. So there is a business impact to a healthy workplace culture. It also means employees get burned out while they are carrying a heavier load. Building belonging has a literal return on investment. The time given to ERGs and other activities builds a positive workplace culture. Data shows that translates to good employee retention. Also, candidates are looking to apply places where they see themselves, so it also benefits our candidate pools. It is something we can highlight as an employer of choice. For our current employees, people who participated in the engagement survey showed us that this is important to them, and we heard them.
For people who might not feel like the ERGs apply to them, are there other opportunities for them to connect?
Well, anyone is welcome to join ERGs, and there are other spaces to experience workplace connection as well. Another outcome of the employee engagement survey is the creating of employee networks. ODOT created a framework for these networks to give people structure around gathering. So far, we have Leaders Forum, and that's not just for people in official leadership roles. And we also have training networks. Both are also open for any employee. And within the Office of Social Equity, we have diversity action teams as well as social equity partners. Employee networks and ERGs actually complement each other, and employees can be part of both. They have different focuses, but both add value and are designed to enhance belonging at ODOT.
Can you tell me a bit about an experience that's helped you feel a sense of belonging at ODOT?
I sure can. So during the winter months, as I was traveling from Bend to Salem, I got caught on the mountain with a lot of snow falling. And because there was a jackknife truck on the highway, traffic was stopped, and all I felt I could see was white in front of me. And I picked up my cell phone and called Mac Lind. Mac very calmly talked me through the situation. He asked me where I was, told me that ODOT crews are always there and are always working in the area. And I also sent a text to the director to let him know that I was stuck as well. And he immediately replied with a lot of concern about my well being and checked in on me after the situation was over. But what really made me feel so proud to be a part of the ODOT family is when I saw the ODOT trucks coming up the mountain to assist in removing the truck or helping the truck to get down the mountain. So I was really, really proud to be a member of the ODOT family that day, and I'm proud to be a member of the ODOT family every day. We want that same sense of belonging for everyone that works at ODOT at all levels of the organization, regardless of identity or cultural representation.
Great. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I appreciate you joining us today. For listeners, we will have more information in the show notes about how to reach the Employee Resource Groups page so you can learn more.
Thanks again to Sarah and Erika for that conversation about employee resource groups. They sound super cool, and I can't wait to learn more about them and join one myself. Okay, on to upcoming events. Only one to look out for in the coming weeks, and it is the State of the Agency Town Hall. That is on July 12th from 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. It'll be virtual on Teams, and you should have an email in your inbox either now or soon with that link to that meeting. But if you do attend, if you have time to attend on Wednesday, the presentation will include updates on the state of transportation, a wrap-up of the legislative session and what may come next, and information on our next budget steps. So again, that is the State of the Agency Town Hall. It is July 12th from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Check your email for that link, or you can always go to the News Hub, which has events on the right-hand side. That is, of course, the News Hub on our intranet. Just click on the events section on the right-hand side of that page, and the State of the Agency Town Hall should begin that list under July 12th. Okay, that about does it for this episode of the Inside ODOT podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can always send those to the Inside ODOT email inbox, which is inside.odot@odot.oregon.gov. A lot of dots in there, but I think you'll get through it. I believe in you. You can also learn more about these topics discussed in this episode in the show notes, which is on the intranet page for the Inside ODOT podcast. But that about does it for this episode. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed what you heard, and we will see you right back here next month. But until then, take care.